this evening, I would like to welcome TravelDan to this episode of In Conversation With. Dan lives in Norwich, England, and is an amateur explorer determined to hunt out as many historical places as he can find, given his budget as an office worker. He studied art and animation and uses these skills to produce his videos. Dan's always loved traveling and was originally inspired by Michael Palin's Around the World in 80 Days. He decided to start the channel TravelDan on YouTube after watching other creators visit lesser-known places around the world. His channel aims to bring viewers alternative places that they may not have heard of or have known about before. So, welcome, Dan. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Laura. Yeah, very good, thank you. Just finished work, so yeah, got the rest of the evening, and it's been really warm today, which is a very rare thing here in England.
I mean, I was there, last week, and it wasn't warm at all.
No, I saw some pictures. There was a lot of cloud.
I love the fact that, you know, it's so green and there's so much beautiful countryside, and I love exploring. But as soon as that sharp, cold wind comes, I start to feel a bit lazy about exploring, and I just end up sitting by the radiator with a book. So
yeah, I get really miserable when there's just clouds around, and I just sort of wander around in circles and think this would look nice with some sun, but not going to get that today.
I have to say, Instagram feeds look lovely when there's blue sky above the megalith or the castle or the church.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, Dan, we'll start. I'm going to ask you a few questions, but it's more of a conversation. I'm going to tell you some stories. You're going to tell me some stories, and it's going to be great fun. So, you're based in Norfolk. I'm obviously pretty into megaliths, and I know there aren't many there. I guess the most famous Neolithic monument originating from Norfolk is Seahenge, a wooden stone circle, which is on display at the World of Stonehenge exhibition at the British Museum at the moment. But I saw that you did travel down to Avebury. Avebury is very well known, but tell me, what do you think people who've never been there would be most surprised about on a first trip?
I think probably the sheer size of it. I haven't actually been to Stonehenge yet. Even though we were around the area, that's something we never had time to do during the week we were down there. But Avebury is really big. There's multiple circles of stones and also ditches that were built, I think, 2000 BC, so that's going back quite a while. I've heard people who've been to Stonehenge, they say it's really small when we get there. And another thing is there's always tourists there, which it's great that these places are popular, but sometimes that does sort of ruin the effect if there's just hundreds and hundreds of people around waving their selfie sticks. So yeah, Avebury, by comparison, there's hardly anyone there. We went on a really hot day. That was about 32, 33 degrees. And I was more than happy to just wander around. I try my best to put up with the heat, even though we don't always get that much of it here in England, so need quite a bit more practice there. Yeah, it's a really nice place. You've got also one of the most haunted pubs in all of England there as well. Wow. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it now, but there's a TV series here in England called Most Haunted, and it featured in one of those episodes.
What sort of ghost haunts it? Is it like
I haven't actually watched it.
I remember, or like someone that died, where there's like the image of the person walking around by a window. There's always these kind of.
There's I remember one story. There was a skeleton found in a well, which I think was linked with the pub, and I believe that's one of the ghosts that go around there. So that's one of them. Yeah, I just remember they had a chalk picture on the wall of I think her name is Yvette. I'm not sure who it is actually, but yeah, she's just was drawn like the character from that Scream painting. So I remember that bit, but yeah, I haven't watched the ghost stories. I thought most of those programs are just about people throwing stones at the people who are being filmed and then go, "Oh, what was that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, they just need something to put on the TV, really, don't they?
Well, that's a great kind of trick for the audience. So you don't just get to see megaliths; you might get to see a ghost as well.
Possibly,
or
yeah.
sense a ghost, or if you don't believe in ghosts, some weird electrical phenomenon. Who knows? But you could go to Avebury and have a really good day out. And get presumably
Definitely,
some
yeah,
nice food at the pub. So
yeah. Always good for a pint as well.
And right nearby there, you also have a couple other prehistoric sites. There's West Kennet Long Barrow and Silbury Hill as well, and they are well worth exploring. There was a very hot day that day, so West Kennet Long Barrow is located on a hill, and it was quite a bit of a walk to get up there. But yeah, when there's something to see, I'll be determined to make it up the hill. That's not going to stop me.
I always think this about the ancestors. They were very fit. Like I remember climbing up the
Yeah,
hill to see the Oracle of Delphi. By the time I got to the top in mid-August, I thought, wow, those those oracular priestesses were very, very fit. I mean, they probably didn't go up and down, they probably just stayed up there. But there were people that had to come and visit them. I mean, that's quite a mission in itself before you even get the omen interpreted. And then say you get there and they tell you that actually the omen is not very good, or they
you would have absolutely wasted your journey.
you just be like, wow, wow. I'm exhausted and I got bad news. I'm not coming up here again.
Bad review on the ancient Greek version of TripAdvisor.
Exactly. I wonder if they had something like that sort of chiseled somewhere and it's just nobody's found it yet. In fact, half the inscriptions, maybe we're interpreting them wrong. Because I always think this, like, maybe they just really were like reviews of something, or like my brother had a look around one of the temples here and he said, are you sure it wasn't just a Neolithic restaurant? And the corpulent figurine, that's like the chef, and they really like her. They think she's amazing, so they made a statue of her. And then that altar, I mean, they found burnt animal bones in it. So could it not just be the cooker? And I was like, you've literally just ruined ancient history for me. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. I was in Wales last year, and they have a couple of these. I think they were barrows, but all you have now is just a couple standing stones with, oh, is it a trilithon entrance where you have the stone that lays on the top? Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And I was just thinking, that's a Stone Age bus stop. It just looks like one of those, really. So I think they had all the earth mound all the way around it, and over the years that's just weathered away or been dug away, and you just got the stones standing in the middle of the field. So yeah, a bit of imagination. You could imagine that's a bus stop for like the equivalent of Fred Flintstone's car or whatever they would have had back then.
Exactly, ruined it. Thanks, Dan. Thanks.
That's right.
I know that you've got loads of weird stories there as well from your like intrepid travels. I've got a fair few. So like the reason I call myself the megalith hunter was because it was such hard work to find little known megaliths. I had some really weird days out. Like I looked like I'd been dragged through a hedge backwards most of the time. Tell me let's start with your weirdest story, and then I'll tell you my weirdest story, and then tell me your funniest one.
Well, I just trying to think of weirdest one. I was in Istanbul in 2019, and I did have a couple sort of traveling mishaps where, it's definitely things you learn. I was back there again in May this year, and I made sure that I didn't make these mistakes last time. But one of them was I was trying to get to a fortress, and on the map it looked really easy. I just got off the train, there was a short walk across, and then you get to the fortress. What I didn't realize is this little fence I had hopped over was actually a big stray dog pen, and I just had hundreds of these dogs just sort of come up to me and bark, and they get really close. And I'm not great around dogs, really. I'm more of a cat person myself. So that's quite scary because I would imagine if you get bitten by one, that's probably going to be quite bad. But I was just able to sort of slowly make my way through and get out the other side without being bitten or eaten, I suppose, could have happened in the worst case scenario. Ooh. Yeah, I do remember there were a couple people there in the dog pen. I don't think they even got up from their chair. They were just laughing and smiling the entire time.
Wow.
So yeah, that's one thing is a bit navigational error there. I could put that down as, and yeah, I guess it's not so much of a sort of worse story, but they do say that you need to avoid the carpet salesman. You usually see these around the Sultanahmet Square, and they just sort of come up to tourists. They can identify you really easily, even if you try and fit in. And yeah, they act all helpful and they try and point you to different places, but they also want you to go to their store. And I thought, yeah, well, it's a sort of cultural thing to do, so it's not going to harm if I just go over there. And the problem with me is I can sometimes be a bit too polite and not really know when to leave. And I was there for about an hour and a half. And yeah, when I was first there, they were all nice and friendly and chatty. And when they figured out I wasn't going to buy a carpet, basically told me to, well, swearing, I won't repeat what he said on this video, but yeah, sort of wasted an hour and a half of both my time and the carpet salesman time. But
if they target tourists, what I don't understand is how do they think you're going to carry it back? I mean, presumably, you know,
apparently they post them, but
budget
I
airline.
was not going to take those risks. I don't even need a carpet, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Just started with that, I suppose, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to ask you the right
Say what?
questions before they, take you to the shop.
Yeah.
Like, where are you from, and what's the carpet situation like in your house? Let's start with some basic questions and then go from there. And then they might, you know, this is the thing with sales in general, is when people just sort of make assumptions, like that you're going to want something. Like someone told me once, oh, this house, it's got lots of wardrobe space, so it's great for you. I said, why?
Yeah.
You think I've got lots of clothes and I'm into fashion? Because look at me, I'm not. It was like a really weird conversation. It's like you've started wrong. You've kind of gone straight for like just making assumptions.
There's a lot more things you can put in them than that.
Yeah, and I was like, there's so many things you could have sold to me in this place, but that was not, you know, the right angle. No, I think for me, like since I've been the megalith hunter, I get, because I've had loads of weird trips in my life in general. But I think as the megalith hunter, my strangest one was I was in Gozo and I read that there was this dolmen in this olive grove called Tablancas. And the GPS locations, there were some online on blogs, not many, maybe 2 or 3. And other than that, there was really no information on where it was. So I thought, well, how hard can it be? A little olive grove, it's like a park where people can go and have picnics and stuff. Yeah, I was there for hours and I didn't find it. And the GPS locations that I'd actually found, they didn't work. And it was in the middle of summer and I was getting really annoyed. So I thought I'll give up and I'll go back the next day, but I'll go earlier to avoid the sun. So I went first thing, like really early actually in the morning. And I finally found this dolmen. And it's not even in the olive grove. It's on the edge of an olive grove pointing out onto a field. And I found it from a YouTuber had done a short video on it years ago. And I don't know how they knew where it was. But they had got it wrong. They thought it was called something else. They thought they were at a different dolmen, one that I actually do know where it is. Like I can find that one easily. And so I was stood in this olive grove, second time, you know, how many hours I've spent in this olive grove. And I just looked at my, this YouTube. And it was filmed years before, but the houses in the background hadn't changed. And I saw the houses and I saw the roofs and I was like, right. And I just went to the edge of the olive grove looking until I matched that. And then there it was. And I was like, oh, finally. But then I started taking photographs. And then this elderly gentleman comes up to me and he's like, hi, are you here about the issue? And I was like, I just have exactly. I was like, wow, this is interesting. I was like, I just have an Instagram site about megaliths, because this is before I even started the YouTube. And he said, oh, all right. I thought you were here because of the issue about the dolmen. I said, oh, so you like know that because it's a small dolmen and it's quite round the edge, but he knew about this dolmen. He could have been quite helpful the day before if I'd met him then. And he said, no, because I think that some of the farmers have been farming too close to it and it's protected and whatever. So I've, reported that as an issue. And you see all the megaliths over here, they're supposed to be like a megalithic avenue that leads up to it. And I was like, oh, right, yeah. I mean, I'd also kind of heard that. They don't look very megalithic these days, but they're still definitely ancient, and they're placed there specifically to lead up to it. So I was photographing that. And then he kind of like decided that we should have a really long conversation about ancient monuments and their protection. I couldn't get out. I just couldn't get out the olive grove. And it was getting hotter and hotter.
In your element,
the midday sun was coming. And lovely guy. And he's really passionate about ancient monuments, it seems. But it was just so random. He's literally hanging around this olive grove, trying to keep an eye on this dolmen. But I didn't see the day before. And it was really funny. Because I couldn't get away because I didn't want to be rude. But at the same time, I was really hot and I got my pictures and I really wanted to go and get in the AC and just rest or swim or something. But yeah, I just wanted to be polite. So I spent a good hour and a half in that olive grove. And now I'm a little bit afraid to go back because it might just be like,
I do know how that feels, yeah. Sometimes you sort of bump into someone on travels and you just say, oh, hello again. Busy, but hello.
And I just like,
get away before your train leaves or something.
Yeah,
stuck there.
Exactly. And it's like, like with the carpet salesman, you just don't want to be impolite, especially when someone shares the same
as
passion.
an English person, it's just in our genes. We are meant to be polite and happy to be patient all the time. And sometimes you do need to be a bit more abrupt if you've got other things to do that day.
But the other thing about Brits is we queue where there isn't even a queue. We just make the queue.
We just order.
Like I go to airports and I see a queue and I join the back automatically. And then I'm like, hang on a minute. Is this even a queue for check-in? And then I'm like, what are you all here for? Oh, we're a tour group waiting for something. And then loads of people have joined it thinking it's the check-in queue and everyone's just too nice to ask or move around and go in the front. I've done that loads of times and then I've been like...
You probably join the queue first and then use that time to observe to see what else is there. And if it turns out you're not meant to be in the queue, then at least you were there to reserve your place just in case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so talking of airports, I saw that you do quite a bit on aviation. Now, I don't know a lot about it. Yeah. I'm mainly interested in the Neolithic, and planes weren't invented then. Only alien spaceships were, obviously, because that's how Stonehenge was built.
That is indeed, yeah, definitely.
So what got you interested in aviation history? I can see your planes in the background as well.
Yeah. There's a few in the cabinet here behind me. They're little scale models that I built. And just the same with history, actually. It's my dad that got me into both aviation and history. That's something he always used to do as a kid himself as well, to build model aircraft and read all history books about castles and that. And it's just something that has sort of been passed down. So we always have those subjects that we can talk about. And every single family holiday I ever remember, even when I was really young, it was always been a list of castles he wants to see. And that's just what we'd spend every single day doing, just going around all the castles in this particular area that we were visiting. So, I do remember, I never used to be that interested in castles, but especially when I got into photography as well and doing the videos, it's just something I love. Every time I book a holiday, it's because I've listed a number of places I want to see, and I think, right, I get all those done.
So, got him to thank for that.
That's awesome. I mean, I've always been interested in history, but I was never really good at photography, so I don't even have half the pictures of places I've been. I probably got one picture of the Oracle of Delphi. And now I wish I'd taken more footage because I didn't know I was going to end up doing this kind of megalith hunter project. But or brand, I guess it is. But I was kind of the same. I think it was just my parents. They're really, when we were children, we went to lots of stately homes and castles. My dad was really interested in megaliths, Mum more interested in social history. And the story goes that when they got married on their honeymoon, they went touring stone circles in the UK, and Mum was really getting bored, and she was just sat in the car half the time on their honeymoon because she's more into like castles and stuff like that. But we've always done it. I mean, we've done a lot of sightseeing that's really what interests us, museums and loads of different periods of history. So I guess I can blame them as well. And also when I was 15, I started to really get into reading and tackling my dad's bookshelf and going through lots of books. And he had the ones about how the Mayan civilization, they looked like ancient astronauts on the tablets. And I was fascinated by it, even though that's not the theory I subscribe to, the whole ancient astronaut theory. The fact that these
Indiana Jones, that was conclusive proof as to what happened.
yes.
Yeah, I think Kingdom of Crystal Skull seems absolutely plausible.
But it's the mystery, isn't it? I think wherever there's a mystery, wherever there's a gap in the knowledge, it gets filled with all sorts of things. And I just find that fun. I love the speculation. I speculate myself, and there are some there are things that, okay, I might not kind of subscribe to that, but I don't mind reading the research on it. I like to keep an open mind. I just think it's really fun. And not just that, like when you go to places like castles, I love to think of how the people's everyday life was with those big dresses and how different things were. It just fascinates me. And we're talking only really a few hundred years ago. So it's in some cases. So I just kind of, my imagination goes back in time and I spend ages.
That's the best,
isn't it? Yeah, to sort of use them almost as like some portal to transport yourself back to the actual time when they were built and used.
Do you have a favourite historical character?
I hadn't actually thought of it, to be honest.
No, I you know what, I was thinking about this because it was a question that someone was thinking of asking me on a, well, it was like there was a podcast where there was going to be loads of different questions and this might come up, but it didn't. But I had given it some thought, and I was thinking about Duchess of Devonshire. I think in the Georgian period, like what she went through with her life was really interesting, and she sounded, you know, mainly. I'm not talking about her marriage and all that controversy. More, what I found from reading biographies of her is that she was an incredibly intelligent person. So as well as being very sophisticated, she was very intelligent and could really host a dinner party. Use lots of long words. Sounds really cool. I just love to be at that dinner party and see the sort of argument she had and how she articulated herself. Sounds impressive, but it's difficult because there's so many
long words. You just get tripped up, especially if drink gets involved as well.
Yeah,
Not going to last long.
Well, exactly. I'm sure it starts well and then it gets a bit. But I just think I think there's so many characters in history that we do have quite a bit of biographical information on, and it's hard to choose. But she did sound quite interesting, so I was thinking that one.
I guess you could always have like Napoleon and say invading Russia, Easter. That's a good idea. I don't think so. He took over large swathes of Europe. There were quite a few setbacks for him, such as the Battle of Trafalgar, various campaigns against Prussians, Russians, British that didn't go so well. But yeah, he definitely did a lot to shape modern Europe. And
even when I read, like, he had stolen lots of archive material from Italy and taken it out, and he was interested in Egypt and the Rosetta. Obviously, then his general found the Rosetta Stone. And so there was quite a lot. He had quite an interest in history as well, in artifacts and archives. And I thought that's quite, so, you know, wow, that's a lot of goals.
He generally just stole stuff, though, didn't he?
Yeah, but the goals, I mean, that's a lot. Like, what do you think? You wake up in the morning, okay, so I'm going to take over Europe, and then I'm going to go and I want to get some artifacts from Egypt because, like, they look amazing. And then I'm going to get a bunch of archive stuff and work through it from Italy from hundreds of years ago because there was all sorts of interesting things happening there. I want to know more about it.
Yep.
I mean, it's a lot of goals. Who wakes up and thinks, oh yeah, I'll just do all of that? So I always wonder, like, the psyche of these people that have such ambitions and confidence. Imagine such confidence in yourself.
Yeah, imagine there's probably no better example of that than Alexander the Great. I mean, he conquered a massive empire, and pretty much anyone else who tries to conquer that sort of area of the world around Asia, the Middle East, they don't always end up holding up for too long. So certainly did very well.
Yeah, and so young as well. I mean, he was very young.
Yeah.
But I was reading.
32, 33,
I think,
something like that.
32, 33 he died. And I was reading about it actually yesterday. I was reading this book, The Birth of Classical Europe. And there's a section on Alexander the Great. It's quite fascinating. I mean, think about it in those days. It's a long walk. It's a really long walk. Like, just from a practical perspective, like, I think I'm walking a lot when I go on a 20-kilometer hike in Sardinia looking for a stone I can't find. But they did some serious walking, marching. And, oh my goodness. I mean, keeping everybody kind of in good spirits and under control must have been like
that wasn't really
next
possible
level.
towards the end of it, I remember.
Well, yeah, apparently they all got a bit mutinous.
That's what happens when you ask people to go through a desert towards India.
Yeah. And then, telling them there's a shortcut back that actually there isn't. Probably want to check your geography first, at least.
Yeah.
Many maps back then, so it really is just wandering.
So you're just telling people, no, there's definitely a shortcut, definitely, because that river's definitely connected with that. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out when we get there.
Circles will definitely end up back where we started.
Yeah, I mean, wow, confidence, like I say, and I think, gosh, these kind of like in ancient Greece in general, the way that they would change history as well, because I was reading about that, they kept creating legends to just explain things. So it's like, let's work with that polis over there. Let's join them and all be friends. But how do we explain that to the people? Well, we'll say that we were all related once and we are all descended from the same hero. Okay, good plan. And that wasn't like once, they did that like repeatedly throughout hundreds of years, creating incredibly elaborate stories and mythologies and legends to explain any of their current political reality. Very, very impressive. Imagination. See, I'm just impressed. I'm like, look at the imaginable.
They did know how to write some really good stories, especially the Greeks. I've read a couple of them, and they're definitely doing instead of a TV, wouldn't it?
That's like
the earliest around a fire with a nice kebab, or whether they in ancient Greece. I'm not entirely sure, actually.
It's like the earliest fiction, but with a purpose, kind of thing. Like the fiction was written to kind of explain things, and it was written as sort of non-fiction. Yeah, it's fascinating. I love it. I just think history has so much we can learn about people and psyche and humanity. I think that's kind of why I like it, because I want to pretend in my head that there have been golden ages really far back and that we only got weird after that. But you'll probably find that we've been weird the whole time.
Most likely so, yeah. I would say probably especially now. I think so.
What travel tips do you have for people who want to visit European cities on a budget? I saw you did Barcelona, obviously. You came to Malta, although we didn't know each other at the time. Like, what's your main tips for budget travel? Because I think, I mean, most people, even, at the end of the day, when you're visiting cities and you're going around lots of historic sites, even if you have a shit ton of money, you don't want to waste it, because you know that you're not even going to see the inside of the hotel. You're going to be out and about the whole time. It's very different to going to a leisurely spa in the countryside. So I think most of the time when people visit cities, they are looking for a reasonable budget trip.
Yeah. So I'm someone who I class myself as a pleb, basically. I'm happy with things being quite basic. For me, my idea of a holiday is to go out there, see the sights, get the pictures and video, and that's the main thing. Some people, they like going, like you say, for luxury, where they spend hundreds, maybe thousands of pounds a night at a hotel. But yeah, like you say, if you're going to pay that for a hotel, most of the time you're going to be unconscious whilst you sleep, so you don't really get to enjoy it, do you? I was actually looking into possibly going to Dubai later on at some point. I know it's not really a sort of historical place, but I do quite like some of the big cities as well, and especially the Burj Khalifa. I think that would be a pretty decent view up there. I'm going to try and find a hotel which sort of suits all the needs, which is close to where you'd want to go, and most importantly, be able to sleep. Because there's some places I can find quite noisy, and I'm very miserable when I don't get to sleep. I find I can run on less sleep than when I'm back home. So I've done days where I've had like 2-3 hours sleep. It's been like 30 degrees the next day, and I thought, I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm off on a walk. So I still do things, but yeah, I always try and get at least a little bit of comfort through hotels, and you can often find really good deals for these. There is, of course, the option of staying at a hostel, in which you could have like an entire week in a lot of cities for less than £100. But a hostel is probably my idea of hell. So I do like at least the fact that you haven't got some random people who'd be sharing a room with you, and I don't know, it'd be creepy if they were just sort of staring at you the entire time, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
So,
I haven't done that since I was
at least have
young.
my own privacy there.
Yeah,
I
and
just
if you go
imagine
to
you
a
get one
hostel and you take like an
as well.
individual room, they still end up being as expensive as a cheap hotel sometimes. No, I haven't done the dormitory style thing since I was like pretty young. And what I hated was like more the sharing of all the bathrooms and having to like kind of go to the shower fully dressed with all my things and then get in the shower and then get undressed in it because it's like all communal and stuff. Yeah.
That doesn't sound very nice to me at all, no.
I don't really like it, but I usually look for hotels, but looking at reviews, because I find that with reviews, you can't just go, oh, I'm just going to look at 5-star reviews, because it depends what you're looking for. And it also depends who's reviewing. So if people are reviewing that, like I read someone said, oh, I was really annoyed because I thought it was going to be a suite, but it wasn't. But they just didn't read. I mean, so in that
a lot
case,
of the time it is the person's stupidity.
Yeah, and you kind of give them a 1-star review, and it's completely unjustified. So I try not to like, I actually have to sit and really look through it properly to make sure that everything's there that I need. And like a place I went to in Italy in March, it was very cheap, and it was on a mountaintop, and somebody had put lots of plugs. I said, great, sold. I need plugs, and I need a cappuccino in the morning, and it had that. And a hot shower.
Like shower plugs, like you don't need one anyway. Okay.
And what about
I wouldn't even know that. As long as there's one, that'll do.
No, I need my hair straightener. I need my plug in my laptop. I need to plug in my camera charger. I need to plug in my phone charger. No, I like to have a lot of plugs. So. But what do you think? There's any kind of advice you need to give specifically to solo travelers?
Yeah, it depends what sort of thing you want to do. If you want to sort of do it as cheap as possible, then you are happy with a hostel, then yeah, you could probably go for that. With me, I always do a lot of meticulous research. I'll look at like the street views to see if that's a nice convenient location. Like you say, with the reviews as well. Yeah, it's just a case of shopping around, really. Look on the websites and see what deals you can get. Yeah, a lot of the times, even if they say like 3-star hotel or even possibly 2-star hotel, it can still be pretty nice. I think a lot of people, they do get put off by that, but yeah, I've stayed at ones which rated just as 2-star, and they've been perfect.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was at a hotel at the Montserrat Monastery. So it's actually located 700 meters up the mountain, and you can stay there overnight. I think the hotel, it used to be a hostel, but it's converted to be more of a hotel now. I'm pretty certain that was a 2-star one, and I just slept perfectly. It was a really comfortable bed, and just everything around there was nice and peaceful.
I went up there like
sleep.
I think it was a few years ago, and I didn't stay there. I just went for the day, all the way up that weird clicky railway, and then I was wearing the wrong shoes, and I tried to go.
Cable car.
No, that.
You didn't pick. Why not?
I don't know. I just at the time I just looked up how to get there, and it was like a train going up a hill. Clicky train with the clicky thing. It's got a name, but I don't remember. And then I got to the top, and I went to the monastery, and then I went to. I saw that you could take the little funicular railways up further up the mountain to go to the hermitages. I thought, looks great. What I didn't realise was I was completely wearing the wrong shoes to go roaming around. I really did think I was just going for a day out to a monastery. I didn't realise how much stuff there was to see in that area. So it's just completely inappropriately dressed. And then I didn't stay there, but I remember going to like that. There's like a cafe attached to the basilica, and it was really long queue, and I was just like so hungry. I was trying to get this sandwich.
There
and I was
are
like,
a lot of tourists around there. But I found if you do stay overnight, by 5 o'clock, everyone leaves, and I had the whole place to myself.
That's a really sensible thing to do. I didn't even know there was somewhere you could stay up there, but that's because it is quite a day out. I mean, it takes hours to get there, really.
It is, it can take
two trains, and then all the little funicular rail, or maybe 3 trains. I can't remember. It was a long day.
I've made a couple of videos of that on my channel. Yeah, towards the end of the day, pretty much the only things I saw were cats. For some reason, I have a weird thing on my holidays where I'm almost like the Pied Piper with cats. They just always seem to appear. And it was a very friendly black and white one. I was just sitting down on the bench having my lunch or tea, that would have been at that point. And just sort of came up, sat on my lap. So friendly to cats, apparently.
The last video I did, one of my cats had climbed into a box, and then she just kind of appeared out of it, just like popped out, and then just stared at the camera for ages. I had
think
no
that should
idea.
be a regular feature. It's really good.
But when you want them to be in, they won't come. Look, Toby, you can just see him on his little couch there. Minka's upstairs. They just don't want to be involved today. If I said, I'll get more clicks. Come on, guys, come on down. They'll just be like, no.
That always works. Yeah. I remember another video you did where you could just see the cat wandering around. It went up on a chair, just sort of sat there for a while.
She went along the counter, which she never does actually. That's not really her space. But that day she decided to do it. It's like, this is the right height to be in Laura's video. I'm going to climb right up. No, but I always think for like solo travel as well, because even if I go like abroad with people, I always end up doing the odd dinner by myself, because like I like to do stuff all day and all night, all night. I've got quite a bit of stamina, and I find that everyone else is like, oh no, we're going to go back and have a sleep, or tonight we'll just get some take out or something. I'm like, no, I'm going to experience all the cuisine. I'm going to book a restaurant.
You're only there for a limited amount of time. You might as well make the most of it while you're there.
So when I go out by myself, though, I like to take a book with me or a notebook to make notes about my day and to remember things for videos and stuff. And so I kind of, when I'm looking for restaurants, I don't want to be one of those people that just walks along the street and goes in anyone, because then it can be a bit touristy. And I don't like to just go to places that are like gourmet that you have to book a month in advance, because that's going to be too expensive. So I usually just go online and try to find places that, like, especially sometimes, like if you're in Italy and they only have the Italian menu online, then you know it's probably local, so that's good. And if you see the prices and they look good, and then I'd actually look at the photos, the gallery of the restaurant, to see how big the tables are. Is there room for my book and my notebook and my things? Like, I do actually quite a bit of research to plan my restaurant experiences when I'm alone, so I can have a really lovely evening, try the local wine, try the local cuisine, and really enjoy it. And then of course, if I don't understand the menu, that's fine, because I've got Google Translate on my phone, so.
That's all right. Yeah. That is one thing I'm really bad at, is actually trying local food whilst I'm over there. I am shameless in the fact I would sometimes I just think, I'm just going to find a McDonald's. I know what a McDonald's is. It's really bad, isn't it? But
Dan, it's bad. It's bad.
Different things every now and again. I did have one time I was in Budapest. That was like my first solo foreign holiday I did, and I was recommended by a friend I have at work who's Hungarian to try something called langos or langos. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It looks like a pizza with cheese on it, and it's really nice. But I thought, I'll save the other half for later and I'll have that for tea. So I just put it in my bag. I had that around about 5-6 hours later, and that gave me the most horrific stomach ache. I'm not even sure what it is in there that would have caused that, but the following day, I was wandering around a place in about 30-degree heat, and it's just grabbing my stomach the entire time. Ugh,
Oh, no.
it's horrible. Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not
never
walking
get
around
it.
having street food that I don't know where it's been and things like that, because
Yeah.
I will get a funny tummy quite easily.
So with McDonald's, you generally don't have that problem. You can tell what it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, once, admittedly, I was in a rush. I was in Rome, not a rush. Well, sort of. I wanted to get round a lot of museums in one day because we were only there for a couple of days. My husband had gone to some robotics fair and with some friends in town as well, but some were at the robotics fair, some were at art galleries. Everyone had their interest and nobody was interested in what I'm interested in. So I said, right, I'm just going to spend the whole day, but because we're only here a couple of days, I need to get through a lot of museums today, like so many. So I had like a whole list and I got hungry and I didn't want to be sitting in some lovely little restaurant for like an hour. So I did actually go to the McDonald's near the train station and then run out. And for me, that was just speed and convenience. And I just was like, oh my God, I'm so ashamed. Like no one any of the people I was with saw me, they'll be like, seriously? We're in Italy. What are you doing? But I was like, right, I'm just going to like.
Their milkshakes are really nice. Like the McDonald's milkshakes in Italy, I did find they're a lot better than like the ones we have back home in Britain.
I never had, I just don't have milkshakes.
It tastes like more creamy and you've got more of a flavour of fruit there.
And when you came to Malta, when you came to Malta last September, which was your favourite McDonald's outlet? let's just take the conversation.
I can't remember. Oh yeah, I did. I did. There's one along the Slima Promenade. I went there. I only think that was once. I don't think I did that any more than once. I remember there's a really nice place that had street food and they had slices of pizza. So yeah, I came back from a day of exploring, just got one of these pizzas and sat by the Slima Promenade, looking out towards the Basilica there. It's really nice, that was.
And what was your favourite site in Malta? I mean, it's hard to have a favourite because you're interested in so many different periods of history.
Yeah. I've got to say, I do think the prehistoric places were probably something that was the most unique thing that I hadn't seen before. I would say probably Jantija as, have I pronounced that right actually?
No. Gigantia.
It's one of them.
No, I mean, even I don't necessarily get it right. Well. I don't necessarily pronounce it perfectly either, but yeah, it's basically Gigantia. The G with the dot is like a J.
I get used where there's two G's in the front. Doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, it's a difficult language.
Yeah.
But I find that really interesting because, apart from like the couple places around Avebury that I would have seen before, I don't think I've seen any prehistoric places that big. And that was really impressive. I also saw, I'm going to pronounce these ones wrong as well, Hagarquim.
Hajar'im, yeah.
And Menadra.
Amnidra. They have loads of silent bits in their words. It's quite challenging.
I have a go. We're an English person, we just have a go. And Tarxium.
Tarshim.
I actually prefer that.
I've put these on my website and I've done a little audio clip of how to pronounce them as well, just, in case anyone's interested.
With you and that before I made my videos then and made a mess of that. But yeah, those are really impressive sites. It's only really recently that they've had the great big covers over 3 of those, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm not sure when they went up. I mean, they've been here, the whole time I've been here, they've been there. But like Gigantia has changed a lot since I first came to Malta because it was originally, there was just like a sort of kiosk and you just pay the money and you walk in. And now obviously there's that whole UNESCO interpretation center. It's like really cool. I mean, they've done a really good job of it. I remember my first trip here, I complained there wasn't enough gift shops. And I know that sounds silly because obviously like that's not my main interest. But I always like to collect some magnets or get some cute like notebooks and things because I like notebooks. And also I like to buy actual books on the places. And some places at the time really didn't have much in the way of gift shops. And I was like, man, they're missing a revenue stream here. Come on. Oh, there she is.
Hey, there's a cat.
So it's like they're missing a whole revenue stream here because I want to like get books on the places and I want to get like my fridge magnets and stuff. But now there's a lot of that kind of thing. So it's quite cool.
That's pretty much the only thing I do usually take back from my holidays is just a fridge magnet. That's like my badge of honor of all the places I've been to. So I need to go back to a couple though because I didn't get the fridge magnets at the time.
It's like when you decide you're going to
start collecting things, and then you're like, oh, I wish like even now that I'm the megalith hunter, oh, I wish I'd photographed all those megaliths I went to 10 years ago. But anyways, whatever.
We always go back to them again.
So you're from Norfolk. I know I keep saying that, but
I am indeed. Yeah. Yep.
I think like with Norfolk, people are always like, okay, you've got the Norfolk Broads, and you put the long boats and go down the the water river Broads. It's pretty famous in England for that, and obviously really extensive beaches, although more for walking than sitting, because I guess you sit mainly in the summer there.
Some of them you can,
But what else for the audience that are watching this video tonight? What do you think you can tell them like about the history of Norfolk that they're going to love, like places they're going to love to visit?
I'm pretty much here as an ambassador for my county.
TravelDan coming to your house. That's what they're going to get to visit.
But it's not very big. But yeah, I am an ambassador for Norfolk, and it is the best county in all of England. We've got the sea, we've got coastlines, we've got fields. We're working on mountains. We're going to build some of those later. And there's loads of history as well.
What's the best spots, though? The best history spots?
It starts from this place called Grimes Graves, which is, apart from the Seahenge you mentioned, that's like one of the earliest things I can think of. There's a Bronze Age mining complex, as they were mining out flint. So you can actually, it looks really weird from the surface. It's almost like kind of like a lunar surface, really, in that you've got loads of craters, which are covered with grass, which you don't have on the moon, of course. And one of them that actually has a shaft which you can go down, and that's the actual mine that Bronze Age people would have used. They dug it out with antlers, and it's very cramped conditions. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to have done that back in the day. So that's like the earliest place. We do have a couple Roman sites here in Norfolk. Norwich actually wasn't a Roman site. That was actually started from, I believe, the Vikings. Might be wrong, might be Saxons. And the Roman site was a couple miles further along a river. I think that was called Venta Icenorum. So there's not actually much left of it, which is a bit of a shame. It's nice for a little walk, but you're going to need a lot of imagination to picture what that would have looked like. Going into medieval ages, it used to be almost pretty much the capital city of England. It was a very, very important place at one point, around about the 12th, 13th centuries. And we've got a cathedral, which is, in my view, one of the best. I guess I probably need to give that title to Salisbury. Salisbury was really nice. It's meant to have the tallest spire in all of England as well for a cathedral. So I'll give you that one. But our cathedral is really nice. And we've got bits of city walls that you can wander around. And one thing I've found, especially over the last couple of years that I've been exploring, is a lot of ruined churches, which usually you don't really think of ruined churches as a place of God. It's not meant to be dilapidated. But there's at least 100 ruined churches in Norfolk, and
I saw this on your Instagram. What happened? Like, why?
Well, apparently there was around about 800 churches in all of Norfolk, and because around about the Industrial Revolution, 1700s, a lot of the villagers, they moved away to go to new cities. The population shift just meant that they just didn't need them all. There were some villages we've got here where they had like 3 or 4 churches, and they just thought, there's only 50 people left here now. We don't need 3. So they just sort of pick the best one and just let the others fall to ruin. Use some of the construction materials, take the roof off. So yeah, that's pretty much why. You'd like to think that's because of war or something like that, but yeah, they just thought, don't need it. I'll leave it.
Oh wow. Yeah, because I saw on your Instagram there's just so many. I had no idea there were that many in Norfolk.
Yeah.
When you're cycling around, and yeah, so I was kind of getting overgrown as well, but kind of pretty, aren't they? Those ruins with the vegetation.
They're really blended in amongst with nature. It kind of feels like how I'd expect coming across some of these Aztec sites or Mayan sites in Central Americas would feel, where you could just be wandering through a wood and all of a sudden you come across this ruin of a church. And yeah, it's really impressive that they're still there. I was around one a couple of weeks ago. You have to leave the village, walk up this little country lane. You get to a small woodland area, which you walk through. And then all of a sudden you've got this ruined church with a tower. And that was abandoned in 1687, I believe. So it's just stood there for over 300 years, just left to ruin.
Are they marked on maps or anything? If people want to go explore.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
They're a lot more well known than others. Possibly one of the most well known around Norfolk is West Somerton. Or is it East Somerton? It's Somerton. I'm just going to say Somerton.
If you send me pictures anyway, also for the audience.
Yeah.
I'll put the pictures into the edit as well.
Yeah, and this is another church that's hidden amongst a great big canopy of trees. And it also has one tree that's grown right in the center of the church. And there's a legend that says that that was a tree that represented the embodiment of, I think it was a witch. I might be wrong on that one. I think it was a witch. There was, that seems weird actually, that they bury a witch inside the church, but yeah, basically that's the spirit that sort of rises out from the church. So I'm sure, yeah, that's mentioned on various other channels, and share this one called Haunted Norfolk, I think, on YouTube. And they've done that. If you do visit these places, you're literally the only person there. You can just explore it absolutely at your own leisure. The only problem is I've been doing some voice recording around these places. It's just typical, isn't it, that you can go around there any other time and there'll be no one, and then all of a sudden there's someone who's just behind the wall, and I've just been wandering around talking to my camera in the selfie stick, and I just look over and I was like, oh, there was someone there. Oh, I'm not doing anything. No, pretend that didn't happen.
I was in the catacombs once, the Paleo-Christian catacombs, and my auntie was asking me some questions about stuff, and I was telling her some history stuff, and then some people came around and they said, oh, what's that about? And I was like, oh, I'm not a tour guide, I don't know. Like, I mean, my auntie just came up with this kind of idea in her head, like, oh, that looks a bit human sacrificing. Next thing, we've got a whole group around us like, yeah, we think it looks a bit human sacrificey too. I was like, it is not a human sacrifice monument. Oh my God. And so we had this hilarious moment where all these people are gathering around and asking me for further information. I'm like, I'm not a tour guide. I was just showing my auntie and just telling her this is what it is. And then the next thing, she's talking about human sacrifice, and I've got a whole group behind me thinking all like coming up with this incredibly hilarious idea and conspiracy. It was just so funny. It was so funny. Because even like I find when I go to the British Museum, like the Anglo-Saxon stuff really astonishes me. The intricacies of the gold carvings and jewelry, it's like, wow. They were really quite fancy for the fact that they had these crammed kind of feasts in long houses or huts, which don't seem very glamorous, but then they had all this incredible jewelry that was actually very glamorous. So they fascinate me, the Anglo-Saxons, really.
I understand about the Anglo-Saxons, though. They came to Britain, where there was all the Roman buildings. Why didn't they use the villas? Did they? They just said, nah, I don't want a proper house. I'll have a mud hut with loads of animal BC smeared over the walls.
Strange, isn't it?
Apparently
Underfloor
that was
heating.
better than a villa. Who knew?
Underfloor heating. Screw that.
Yeah.
I just want to live in a hut. No, it's with a big cauldron hanging over a fire. Yeah, it's. That stuff like that is a bit weird, and like even like the fact that mosaics all got lost over time. Gosh, just take it up and put it in your hut. It looks great.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you might have hated the Romans for what they might have done to your tribes, but if they've got a fair building, that's fair enough, I think.
Yeah.
Rent's free and everything. I mean, what's not to like?
Exactly. No, I am fascinated by these little things of history and the fact that, like I say, they just made such intricate jewellery and masks and all that and helmets, but didn't really care. But their living environment just didn't seem very glamorous. And I read somewhere that
I suppose, but I think they definitely should have learned a bit more about the Romans and thought, right, we'll put some proper roads down, we'll build some nice buildings, and sort of take it from there. But we just sort of had to wait until the Normans came over, and then they sort of started building everything nice again.
Yeah. I don't know. I would have to ask them.
They were just caretakers for the country for a little while.
If I could travel back in time and ask them, I've got a lot of questions. But that's about everyone as well, all time Chris. So before we wind up, what's next for TravelDan? Where are you going next, and what are you planning to do with your channel?
Well, I just came back from Istanbul. You might be able to see a Turkish flag behind me there, which was brought back. So I'll be having some videos uploaded soon from Istanbul. I think I've done around about 9 different videos, subjects for that. And in 2 weeks' time, I'm off again. TravelDan is going off to Holland and Belgium. So I'm going to be seeing quite a few different things there. A couple of air museums, going around various different cities and towns in Belgium. And plenty more to be added. And this is only like halfway through the year. I've still got September and November to sort out. So as long as my office worker budget covers it, there'll be lots more to be added.
Awesome. So I'm putting all your details in the description below, so that if anybody wants to know where to find TravelDan on social media and obviously his YouTube channel, the links will all be in the description. I encourage you to follow him and subscribe, of course, because there's some really good content on there. And the Instagram stories of him cycling around derelict churches, which don't really appear on YouTube, are quite fun. There's some really nice scenery.
I try and add
some funny stories as well. Yeah, the
signs
are hilarious. Especially
the heavy plant crossing.
The plant crossing was my favourite.
That one.
I mean, it obviously means a heavy piece of machinery, but it did just look like in the middle of the countryside, someone's warning you about plants.
I was watching out for a triffid. It was going to be there somewhere, wasn't it?
Thank you so much, TravelDan, for coming onto my channel this evening.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Take care.